can. Yeah. Should I get there now?
chairperson, okay? Unless, I mean, is that how we should do it?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to be acting chair for the moment.
Okay, and so are we starting now?
Good. Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, it's 6:41, and this is the City of Columbus Plan Commission, the regular meeting. It's Thursday, July 8th, 2021, and I'm calling the meeting to order. We will take a roll call.
Sure. Monday. Present. Tyler. Here. Arnold.
Here.
Lewis.
Here.
Pifron and geez, Traxler are excused with Ashton being absent for the
Okay. And the meeting has been noticed in accordance with state statutes and local ordinances. And the next item on the agenda is to nominate and appoint a chairperson for the Plan Commission.
I'll just interject quickly. So Uriah Monday was the chair for the last year or so. And when his reappointment came up in early May, he was not included, so therefore he missed the meeting and we needed a chair for the interim. And basically this would essentially reappoint Uriah if he's interested. Well, I guess it'd be up to the Plan Commission, but I mean, I think the preference has been to have Uriah reappointed as the chairperson, but I'll leave that up for discussion.
So is the chairperson elected or appointed?
I believe the chairperson is selected among the group.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
you're correct. I should say elected.
okay. Well, are there any nominations? I'd like to nominate Uriah Monday to be the chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that Uriah Monday take over the job of chairperson for the Plan Commission. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now Uriah, I will hand it over to you.
I assume since you didn't oppose that you're okay with it.
We'll move on to agenda item number 5, and that's to approve the agenda that we've been working off of. So, please review the rest of the agenda, and I'll entertain a motion to approve as written or any amendments.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? None. This is our agenda for the evening. Item number 6, approved minutes from May 13th Plan Commission meeting. The minutes are in your packet and are fairly extensive. Please review, and I'll entertain a motion to approve as written or amend.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, minutes are approved. Item number 7, we have a slot here for general comments from citizens. I know there's a number of people in the room, and there are some people on Zoom. Are any of those wanting to make a general comment?
I believe those in the room want to speak during the public hearing items on tonight's agenda. I do not know if the individual via Zoom would like to speak during citizen comment. I don't know if Alicia wants to speak during citizen comment or later on in the meeting. Can you unmute her? It appears that she doesn't want to speak at this point in the meeting,
All right.
so.
All right, moving on from item 7 to item 8. Any unfinished business? None is printed in the agenda. All right. Hearing none, moving on to item 9, new business. The first item there is 9A, a public hearing regarding the request of the Columbus Self-Storage for a conditional use permit to construct a self-storage facility on a portion of parcel 11211-1512.10. All right. I will open the public hearing. Matt, will you
Sure.
introduce the project?
Yeah. Application from Steve Hajewski from Columbus Self Storage to construct an additional phase of his project, and it basically extend from the back of his current lot all the way over to the corner of Commerce Drive and Highway 60 as it's shown on the presentation. I think I'll wait and have further comment when we actually get into the item under the deliberation under item B. But I mean, that is the project as it's been applied for. Or would you rather have me give my full deliberation now?
I think well, either you or Steve should introduce the project so that anybody wanting to comment on it knows what they're commenting on. So
Sure,
if-
okay,
If you want to withhold,
can-
if you want to withhold staff comments until later, I think that's fine, but I think a project introduction is necessary.
So on the screen, what you see is, these were the plans that were submitted with the application dated, I received them on the 16th of this year, or of June. So what you'll see here is 9 buildings in total, basically running along the north half of what was former, or what is currently Lot 10 of Columbus Commerce Center. So to get your bearings, so to speak, just to the east of here is the former grocery store, which is now Eggers Imprints. And then the existing self-storage unit is to the west of this site. So it basically extend all the way along the frontage of Highway 60 to Commerce Drive. So they're proposing, as I said, 9 buildings in total, and I believe, let's see, go through the other plans here just quickly. That's the general layout of the site. One thing that, we noted kind of during this process is that the building here is within 20 feet of the setback, or with the line here, so this would violate the setback requirement under our zoning code. Also, want to note that the green area here that is shown is wetland delineation. So there is a process that the applicant would have to go through to actually have the wetlands removed from the site or have some sort of DNR concurrence before he could build as this is shown currently. The next page of this is going to start to get into the landscaping. So basically what you'll see is there's 3 separate pages. They'll have landscaping based along the north side of the buildings. Basically, the area that is adjacent to Highway 60 and Commerce Drive will all have landscaping for this project. And then the last is the lighting plan. The lighting plan it basically shows that there's not going to be any like pole lighting out there. All the lighting will be on the building, located attached to the buildings. With the zoning district being I-1, the photometric readings from this plan will meet our code as far as, the spillage at the property line. So, I do, in our, as I said, we can discuss when we get into staff comments. There are several comments on things that needed to be updated for these plans before they could be approved for any sort of building permit, or actually any sort of conditional use permit. So, That's the high-level overview of the plans we received. There are, also, I should probably show building plans that were submitted that show the general layout, but we did have a question, and you'll see in the letter that some of the references of the building numbers in here appear that it might have been for a previous phase, so I don't know if this is actually,
Yeah, this is an example of a typical elevation. This is actually showing the first phase that was built, but the buildings would be very similar.
so, and that was a question that staff had, was with the plans that were shown, these aren't the actual, what is actually being built, it's just, as Steve just mentioned, or the applicant just mentioned, this is from a similar, or the past phase, similar buildings. So I think with that, we could ask the applicant to come up and walk us through his project in more detail.
Yep, agreed. Steve, you want to come to the podium?
Turn something on here.
Yeah, it looks like the.
A face with,
Yeah.
there you go.
There you go, got it.
Hi, I'm Steve Fajewski. My family and I have operated Columbus Self-Storage since 2015. So we're locally owned, operated. I do have a business partner in this from Baraboo, and in turn, I'm a partner in 2 different facilities in Baraboo that he and his wife operate. So we're a local Wisconsin team. This one managed and operated right here in Columbus. So, yeah, to talk about what we're doing here, we're looking to add additional units, following in the same vein of what we've done. We're stepping it up a little bit, though. The landscaping on the newer phases would be more extensive. We'd be continuing the wrought iron-looking fencing along the perimeter. There would be a security gate at the new entrance. So there'd be 2 entrances on it now, so it'd be to split up the traffic so people could go on either side. Landscaping plan was done by Yankee, so we'd have a local landscaper do that for us. So I think the highlight of it, too, is the building that's on the corner. That's going to be another climate-controlled building, and that one, we're really going to try and step it up a bit. We're going to have a nice office for our customers, a nice rental center there, much bigger windows, and we're continuing the use of some of the more premium materials around the exterior. So there's a fiber cement brick pattern that we use, again, a fiber cement stone pattern. So these 2 you've seen on the existing buildings. If you were to look at the buildings we have now, I don't have a picture of them, but the end walls of the buildings that are visible from the highways generally have the brick facing to step up the appearance quite a bit. And on the new office building, because the main entrance would really shift to the new section, we'll be using a simulated wood fiber cement product as well. So a lot of neat things, and we're trying to make this really one of the nicest storage units north of Madison for many miles, which, I think the curb appeal goes a long way. We have a lot of security measures on the property. We have cameras. We have over 30 high-def cameras on there, 3 separate systems. So if one goes down, there's quite a bit of redundancy throughout the site. With the gate, we know who comes and goes when. So we've had very minimal problems with crime. And there's been, I think, maybe 2 or 3 police calls in the time we've been open. So it's a nice business that contributes to the tax base. My last tax bill was about $34,000, and I'm sure this addition will more than double on my value. So we are it feels like a good-sized contributor to taxes without bringing in any extra children of, this is a low drain on the community, so it has that benefit for the taxpayers of the community. As far as getting more into the plans that Matt mentioned, the first 8 buildings are very similar to what we have as far as their construction. They're steel 18-gauge buildings. We will have, the profile of them will be basically what you see now. You really notice the change at the corner building is where it will be different. So I'm aware that in order to get the building permit, we will need to submit a full permit set from the manufacturer of the buildings, from our structural engineer. That type of thing, generally I try to get over the hurdle of the conditional use permit before we start investing more money in the complete permit set. In the previous phases, it was done that way. We know that we know that we can build storage, then we get more in depth with the actual, the DNR concurrence on removing a wetland and that kind of thing. So I am fully aware, and we do fully plan to make sure we comply with all of the DNR and the Army Corps of Engineer regulations, and of course, would fully intend to provide all that to the city before we would expect to have a building permit. Trying to think, any other questions for me? I should just mention the comment about some of the buildings close to the lot line. That is the lot line meeting with ours. And I do believe that Jason Letha wanted us to merge all of it into one parcel anyway, so that I would expect that lot line should go away. If not, if there's anything little like that, we would address whatever we need to do to get it through.
I guess I would ask them, you could have done it with this current CSM that you applied for
Yeah,
later tonight, so why wasn't that done then?
I didn't think of it.
Okay.
No, that's an oversight. Yep.
All right, thanks, Steve. We'll open it up to public comments.
I have to lower the microphone, I think. I'm short. Kelly Crombie, 442 South Lewis Street, former mayor of Columbus, and this was one of the first projects I think that the city started working on during my time as mayor. And I think Steve was a good person to work with, a good local developer, and I think he put up a good project that I'm happy to use as a customer for two of my small businesses that need extra storage for law books I inherited and a couple of old pieces of equipment that I probably should sell. But it's a safe, secure facility. It's well lit. I feel. I think he's contributed significantly to the tax base and supported a lot of local businesses in town that need some old law books from the former city attorney's office. So that's all I had for you. Do you want this off, Matt?
Thanks. We have some people online. Are they wishing to speak with this item? Couldn't handle the excitement. Okay. All right. Anyone else wish to speak regarding this item in the public hearing? I'll ask for a second time. Is anybody wishing to speak on this item at this public hearing? And for a third and final time, if anyone wishes to speak on this item at this public hearing. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing on the Columbus Self-Storage Facility and move on to item 9B, which is consideration and possible action on the request for this conditional use permit. So, Matt, now at this time, will you present the staff report?
Sure. So the application, as we kind of notified, was submitted on June 16th. So since then, the full application was submitted with the plans that you see in your packet. As we've gone through that, you'll note that we have 37 specific comments regarding the plan in the packet tonight. And obviously, at a certain point here, depending on what happens tonight, those comments will be sent. Because I mean, there are going to be some sort of conditions on what happens with this project. Basically, this has been something that's been going on for quite some time, going back to 2020, and it's been staff's professional opinion that having the current layout as proposed is not beneficial to the city for the promotion of orderly development. And really, the rationale is the corner of Highway 60 and Commerce Drive, excuse me, is an area that should be the highest and best use for this area. It's very easy access into this area, and the staff has maintained all along that we would prefer to see a different layout from the applicant than what has been proposed. That has been something that has been stated several times, and I would say staff has been consistent with that position on what we would like to see from the applicant. That is not obviously what we've got, so we have the proposal in front of us tonight. The one thing I would say is I do agree that the project would have a nice tax base to the city. It would, by the applicant's submission, it would create $2 million of assessed value, which would mean to the city about $16,500 a year in tax revenue to the city. Obviously, the other taxing entities will get a section, but really, we're the city, we should be worried about, for the most part, the taxes we're receiving are paying for the services for city services. That's really one of the things that we need to consider. So when you look at that chunk over a 40-year period, then you're talking $660,000. Then you're looking at using that in Y40, that's the useful life of sewer, water, streets. This area was developed for a more intensive commercial use when you're talking about the water and the pipes compared to what is being applied for. I'm sure that there would be some sewer and water use that would be attached to the one bathroom that would be in the plans, but really this area was built for a different type of purpose. Also, when you look at the traffic out there, the applicant has submitted information in the packet that shows that the self-storage units do not generate much traffic. And why that is good in the aspect that it prevents, nuisances from overcrowding for traffic. The actual fact of the matter is the way this area was developed with Highway 60, with the turn lanes, it was designed to accommodate more traffic because that area has been specifically designated for a more intensive commercial use. So those are some of the, I guess, the issues that I've seen with this project. The other issue, I guess, is concern with the way the Lot 10 is being divided. Right now, it's being divided in half, and basically the northern half, which would be Columbus Self-Storage, we really have no idea how the southern half would be used. And there's really no uniform plan to this whole area. So if we're further dividing land and without any sort of knowledge of how this area is going to be developed, I mean, I have concerns about the orderly development of this area then. It would be, the last item that I guess I'll just go over is, I think by code, Plan Commission cannot act either unless he amends this CSM to actually dissolve the lot, or amends the site plan to show him meeting building setbacks. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions from commissioners, either for staff or for the applicant?
For those of us who don't have much of a background in planning, and maybe for other people who are watching tonight, can you tell me what kind of a vision you would have when you talk about how this was originally intended to be developed for something other than what we're seeing?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of different plans over time. One was a very ambitious retail center, which I'm not entirely sure will ever come to fruition. When I say ambitious, I'm talking a couple big box stores, and things of that nature, which I'm not sure with where retail is going with online retail that we'd ever come to that sort of conclusion. But the other would be having it more of a business park area with more commercial type development in there. Obviously, the fate of the Commerce Center has kind of been it's, I guess, decided by previous owners and decisions that have been made over time, and right now, we're left with kind of the remnants of that, and we're kind of putting that back together. But as far as the vision goes, I mean, when we're talking comprehensive plan, we're talking high-end, nice commercial development is what we want, and we want to see, not only would we want to see the private investment, we'd want to see employment, and a lot of those types of factors, I think, are very critical. Do I need to clarify more? Did that answer?
You answered my question. I do have another question too, but I don't want to, if anyone else wants to jump in, feel free. Okay, I looked at the plans, and I guess I just want to make sure I understand. Is there another way you were hoping to see expansion here that is different from what was presented tonight?
Well,
And can you explain that to me, because I don't think I get that.
so the staff has maintained that if you divided, and I don't know if I should bring it up online, if you divided Lot 10, a different.
Looking at this, right?
Correct, so basically speaking, here, did you, yes. I'm trying to bring it up so everybody can see it.
So you're okay with more development, you just want to see it presented in it or carried out in a different way?
One of the
Is that
things
right?
with Lot 10 being a very large lot, very deep lot, and you can't get access from Highway 60 because it's controlled by the state DOT, is that a lot of times you'll get areas where they'll develop along Commerce Drive, but the back will be vacant. Prime example in town is actually behind McDonald's. There's been a lot listed for sale there for, well, at least since I've started 3.5 years, mainly because when they went in and divided some of that area, there's a remnant parcel, and the remnant parcel hasn't been as attractive to actually develop. So it's just kind of sat there. There are other extenuating circumstances for that, but I do think that when we're dividing land, we want to make sure we're not leaving ourselves with areas that may be undevelopable, and that is really part of the concern with some of what I'm seeing here, because I mean, I don't, without having a grander picture of how this area is everything's gonna come together out there, we don't know how this is gonna play out, and, next thing we know, we're stuck with a certain amount of land that won't be built upon. And there's only so much commercial land that's available right now. I would want to make sure that we're doing our part to maximize that land. It's not,
Sorry, we usually keep this for asking the applicant, and the public hearing is the time for that, but. Mary, do you have anything additional?
No, thank you.
I've got a few things for, I guess, both of you. Steve, if you're willing to answer this, can I ask, is the frontage critical to you, either from a visibility standpoint or an access standpoint, or both? Is that a critical part of your vision for your business?
Frontage is helpful. Access is important. And a big part of why the plan is as it is that's the lot that's for sale. The seller did not offer to split it the other way. I know that Matt had asked if it could be split in the other direction. That wasn't an option. That was not for sale in that way. So I worked with a plan that I thought would best meet the need of being a very attractive site on the high visibility corner. I think I'd also mention that while we do not directly employ, it's myself and my family that run it, we do support a good number of businesses. A good number of businesses rent units, whether it's fitness centers storing equipment at times. We have home builders, multiple home builders who have items in there for staging their homes. The list could go on. We have cleaning companies. We have landscape companies, we have snow removal companies. We have a very large number of businesses that need storage as part of what they do, and we offer that flexibility that they can come and go months at a time as they need to. Unfortunately, I wish someone would have mentioned the setbacks to me prior. Now, while this version of the plan that you see was submitted very recently, that's because that overlay was provided at Matt's request to show the wetland that we need to resolve in conjunction with the building. But the buildings that are on there, we've been going back and forth in that for months and months, and it would have been helpful if that was pointed out, because I would have had that addressed right now if that would have been mentioned to me.
I guess I would just note that I didn't know you were planning to dissolve the lot line. How am I to assume that based on what I
Yeah.
have submitted?
Yeah, and that's my oversight. I wish I would have thought that when
Yep.
we. when we
And
did that,
actually,
but-
guys, I'd like to get past that because that is a fairly easy resolution, either by eliminating a couple of units or by joining it. I
I
think
agree.
we can,
I
move
did try to
past
take
that.
into account all the feedback I could, though. For instance, the driveway was redesigned per the city's request to match up exactly with the existing one on the other side and be a shared driveway with the future use to be determined. And I'd mentioned the area has changed. I know that when that area was first set up, yes, it was a Shopko, a grocery store, there was hopes for a hotel, there was strip malls in there, and so the character of it's changed a bit. It's car dealerships, and it's a printing company. So it's not quite what was envisioned originally, but still a good contributor to the community and an essential service if you're moving here.
I've got a second question for you, again, if you're willing to kind of share some insight, but do you have a vision for any phasing on this layout?
Yeah, yes, and it would go in 2 or 3 phases. So the first phase would be 4 additional buildings directly adjoining what's there. And then the next phase or 2 would be the next 4 buildings, and then the climate-controlled one in the corner. I'm not sure between the climate-controlled and the other part which would go first, but that depends a bit on consumer demand.
Okay, so again, working from what I would call the back to the front.
Yeah, working from.
adjacent to your existing buildings and then
Right,
eventually moving toward.
working adjacent to the original development
Okay,
towards the corner.
okay. All right. Thanks, Steve. I have some questions for Matt. Does anybody have any other questions for Steve real quick? Okay.
Can I just check, I'm sorry, I think we might even be part of the application, we're the seller of the land.
Okay, good point, Jim. Yes, you got your way in here. Good. Do you want to come say something?
Yeah, I just
Go
wanted
ahead.
to mention one thing that Matt had mentioned.
Push the button.
The face with the sound waves coming out of it.
There we go. I'm Jim Hartzong with ACS RBHS LLC. We actually own the land out there. And I just wanted to comment on one thing that Matt had mentioned is as far as the dividing of the land and the concern as far as, somewhat of a haphazard nature, not knowing how the rest of the land is going to be developed. As Steve had talked about, obviously there was an initial plan put together way back when this was first developed. It was a fairly grandiose plan that it was going to be basically a regional shopping center that was out there, and that's how basically the lots were designed. But that's not going to come to fruition, and so you basically you start from scratch, right? And you take development as it comes. We actually do have the rest of Lot 10 and also Lot 8 under contract with a different group. Obviously, they haven't come forth with their plans to the city yet that I'm aware of, Matt, is that correct?
Yeah, I have no.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know we had discussed it, but, yeah, so we actually have that land under contract with a different group that's going to be proposing something here in the future. So, if there's a concern as far as how the lot is split, in that it would create an unsaleable or undevelopable lot, I don't think that's the case.
Jim, would you say again which other lots you have?
So it would be the rest of Lot 10 that we're splitting.
Okay.
So it's, you
And
know, lot.
for you commissioners, if you go to the second to last page in your packet and look at that overview, this is what I'm looking at. So it's in a different part, but second to last page of your packet, right? It shows all the lots in there. So now we can use that for reference. So go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, so the rest of Lot 10 that we're splitting off for Steve. Lot 9 is actually, a different group has Lot 9 as well, that is formulating their plans. I believe they've had some preliminary discussions with the Development Council, or committee, or whatever that's called.
Yeah.
A Friday morning meeting,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that's called, sorry. And then Lot 8, which is right next to Lot or right next to Lot 9 and abuts Lot 10, next to the pond and the drainage way. That's with the same group that has the balance of Lot 10.
Were you all able to follow along with that and see the different parcels he's talking about? Okay, so, sorry.
Yeah,
thought that
no,
would give a little
so I should have
better
brought a map, I
overview to
apologize,
everybody
yeah,
For the lands.
So then, I guess, can I just ask a question or no? I'm not, so, the group that's buying the rest of lot, which is lot 2 of what's proposed, is there, are they gonna be a permitted use, or what would you, do you?
I'm not exactly sure what they're used, I mean, they have the zoning ordinance, so
Okay.
they know what, is allowed and it's not allowed. I mean, I can't speak on their behalf, obviously, they haven't.
Okay, and then, so then if you, I guess I'm confused when the applicant said the landowner was the one that wanted the division this way, and you basically, the landowner didn't really have any plans, you're selling it, so I guess my question is why did you guys want it split this way rather than the way that the city preferred?
Because I think it actually, it creates a larger area that could have been assembled. So if we split it the other way, you're basically taking some from Lot 10, you're taking some from Lot 9, depending on how far you go down. Then you're leaving a small parcel in the corner, and then you're creating another small one next to that, in between 9 and the corner piece.
I mean, I
You
guess,
basically would have created 3 small lots at the entrance.
not necessarily, you would have just created 2 lots, you would have created.
Well, you would have had
you
you would have had a long rectangular lot, and then, and then Lot 9.
But I mean, the lots you were creating now are narrow and deep.
So we
And I
wanted to
just
leave
find
a,
that for commercial development, the deep lots aren't preferable. That's just, I guess that's just
well,
my thinking.
for retail, but I think we've seen from history on the development of the parcel that retail hasn't worked out there. I mean, there's been several retail operations that have come and gone.
Correct, but lot 9 says they're gonna be a retailer, correct?
I don't know if you'd consider them a retailer or not.
Okay.
You heard what they're,
No,
Yeah.
they still haven't told the city what they're
Okay.
doing. They haven't given their
mean,
application. They just have said they're
well-
gonna be a retailer, and I don't know any of the details.
my understanding is they're a permitted use, so take that for what it's worth.
Well, if they're actually a retail operation, then they would be, but I don't really know what their use is. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
again,
it's-
I'm not here representing them. I
No,
can't speak on their
understand
behalf,
that.
so
I'm just,
So with regard to how the lot was split, in summary, you split it what we'll call the long way, because now that I'm visualizing it on this sheet, that gives continuity to the other piece of property that you also own. If you split it the opposite way, you would have a parcel here and a parcel here that would only be meeting at the corners of the 2 parcels.
Correct. We would have been left, so we first started talking with Steve right after we acquired the property. And so we felt that it made the most sense to just extend right up along 60, which would have left a large contiguous parcel, basically to the east of them. Well, after we were in discussions with Steve, on how to split it, we then engaged in conversations with someone that specifically wanted Lot 9. That they specifically wanted that one. And so we said, okay, that's fine. And that created then basically a parcel around Lot 9. And that's how we promoted it to this third group that approached us, and they're interested in that parcel. So, but the original intent was, yes, let's keep a large contiguous parcel because you don't know what's going to come down the pike.
Okay, that gives me some clarity into your rationale.
Yeah,
so.
and I guess to expand on that, and sorry to interrupt you, is we're next on the agenda for another use that we're going to be presenting on another one of our lots. We originally were thinking maybe on a larger scale that we would expand into some of these other lots, you know, to the east of where Steve was going to be taking. Well, this other group came to us and it changed our plans. And so, again, you're always having to adapt and adjust to things that are presented to you.
Anything else for Jim? Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you.
I guess for you, Matt, so the vision would be for that corner to have a high-traffic commercial kind of thing, similar to the grocery store and what had been there, or I would say at least something that's a fairly high-traffic generator. And is that what your vision is?
I'd call it a more intensive commercial use. It's
Okay.
probably a better way to put it.
Okay.
I mean, there could be a variety of things that could go there that I think would make a lot of sense, whether it's a good-sized office building, whether it's, a hotel that was talked about there at one point in time, whether it was, I think there are a wide variety of things that could go there that make a higher and better use out of that land. And I firmly believe that having that corner is key. And as it, I just, not against the proposal necessarily, I just wish it was laid out in a different manner. But
Okay.
it's,
Okay, so you've got an opinion on what the highest and best use is, and this doesn't quite rise to that level, is what you're saying. Okay, okay. Yeah, all right. I definitely see the conflict of opinion here, right? Highest and best use, and then sort of what I would call the evolutionary theory, right? That you guys have, and that is there has been a commercial use out there that has not been sustainable for whatever reason, market forces, location, whatever. I mean, it's kind of been demonstrated, and the whole area has in a way regenerated itself with a little bit different tack. So I guess that's what I'm thinking of here, like which side of the coin or which side of the fence should this fall on, as I'm thinking about things. So, are you an applicant too, Steve?
I am an applicant.
Excellent.
I'm part of
All right.
So,
talk. So, Steve Black, I'm also part of ACS RBHS LLC, the seller in this case. Born and raised in Columbus. I've been here 50 years. I've also witnessed the conception of this industrial park. I've watched several signs that were constructed out there rot and fall to the ground. There's one out there buried on Lot 6 right now. It's been plowed under. The general, the marketing, it's been marketed for years. I don't know how long. Mike Eisinga owned the property. He had several different firms that were under contract to market this property and try to solicit some of the business that Columbus was thinking that this property would be good for. and none of it ever came to fruition. Also, we've reached out to a couple entities. Can I name the one? We reached out to a larger entity that we thought, a large regional entity that we thought would be a good fit for a high-use corner like that, and there was no interest whatsoever in it. So I just think that tripping over a dollar to get a dime is not a good policy here. We're looking past an obvious use. We've got a local businessman here who wants to expand his business, increase the tax base. He's interested in using local companies to do that, and it's also going to support local people. But I don't know. I'm a little, discomforted by the fact that there's what I feel like is a hostile or aggressive, pushback against this. There's a couple little things that Steve could work on, but other than that, it seems like a good policy for it. So just wanted to put that out there.
Any other comments by commission, staff? No. Okay. Well, we've deliberated, so I'll entertain a motion. This is a recommendation to council to either grant or deny a conditional use permit, correct? That's the question on the table. Okay. I'm hearing some hesitancy, so I'll also offer that it's a acceptable alternative to table this, isn't it? We've had the public hearing, that's out of the way, and then,
I would say yes, that would be a acceptable alternative, when you consider that we can have the applicant work on some of the items that were identified, and most notably trying to address, the setback issue, whether it's doing a CSM to make one map, or one lot, or going through and amending their plan. I mean, that would be a potential solution or potential action that could be taken.
because those particular items, so there's really two particular items there, right? There's one thing that would require a variance if you didn't amend the plan, but there's a whole other thing about the conditional use, right? The fact that there's some things too close to a lot line is not a use issue, right? So I think what we really want to attack is, are we going to allow this use on this property?
So I would just note that when you look at our zoning code and when you look at 114-29, under findings, number 6 says the conditional use in all other respects conforms to all applicable regulations of the district in which it is proposed to be located. In this case, until the setback is actually resolved, it would not meet that finding.
All right. Does anybody care to make a motion?
I would feel better if we had more than just 3 commissioners up here too, since this does seem to be somewhat contentious. I'd like to have at least more than just 3 of us up here. So I would recommend that we table this and make a motion to table.
There we go. We have a motion.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second to table this. Any further discussion? Here? No? All right. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those signify by aye if you wish to table.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll lay this one over to August 12. Okay, so then, item 9C, if this has been tabled, does that, it's kind of a cascading thing, isn't it?
Technically, you can table it, but as far as the lane division goes, the lots that are being created are two conforming lots. I mean, theoretically, you could approve the CSM if you chose, but I mean, obviously with the landowner being here, I mean, I think it'd be wise to ask them if they would rather have this tabled as well. As far as the lane division goes, yeah, there really isn't much. I know there are a few comments that need to be addressed, that would have to be addressed before it was recorded and approved. But ultimately, as I said, it's up to Plan Commission.
All right, well, I like that suggestion of asking the applicants. Is it,
I mean, it doesn't make any sense to approve it.
Well, there's no point approving the division if you're not gonna approve the use. I think it might make sense that we come back, and talk to you guys offline, but this revised CSM should, in my mind, should simply include the entire Columbus self-storage, make it one parcel with the new, would be the proposal, I would think, and then that takes care of our setback issue.
all right,
Talking out loud, how can you do that with one CSM?
I'm not sure. I gotta.
How can you
talk to
You
combine?
have to split one and then merge with the other one. Can you do that all in one?
How can you combine?
it's how many signers are on it, yeah.
You can do
So, without giving legal advice, yes, I believe it can be done,
I
so,
think we need to talk to the
Yeah.
surveyor
Yeah.
and figure that out.
yep. Okay, so, commissioners, we've heard from the applicants. Do we want to, is there anything to discuss, or I'll be willing to discuss it, but go ahead, give us your thoughts.
Well, like they said, it doesn't make sense to deal with that if they aren't getting the first part. It's kind of useless doing the second part, so I would make a motion to table C also.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those signify by favor by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right. Item 9D, moving on, public hearing regarding the request of ACS RBHS LLC for a zoning map amendment for parcel number 11211-1512.07 from I-1 Light Industrial District to R4 Multifamily Residential. All right. All right, opening the public hearing, as before, Matt, will you give a overview of the proposal?
Yes. All right, so when you look at the map that Uriah noted is on page 44 of the packet, Lot 7 is in the far southwest corner of Commerce Center. It's about a 3-acre parcel. This is one that has been talked about for a variety of uses, and in fact, I think the previous applicant and I talked about maybe having his project be there as well. The trick with this one is tucked further away from kind of the Highway 60 from the I guess in the Commerce Center, the prime, I guess what in staff's opinion, what is the best commercial locations in the Commerce Center. So when the bank went through their process to purchase the land and then ultimately sold it to the current property owner, having some sort of mix of uses in this area just seemed to make sense for a development standpoint. And one of those mixes seemed to be a multifamily approach and having some multifamily housing out in this area. One of the other things I would note is the comprehensive plan that we just went through and updated. One of the things that was discussed and put in Chapter 7 of the land use is that in the Highway 16 commercial district, is that there would be a blend, there would be some limited multifamily in certain areas of that district. So what you have before you is an application to rezone the 3 acres of that parcel into multifamily. The one thing I would note is that if you look at the last page, that is a conceptual plan. That would still have to go through a review process under Chapter 78, and they'd have to submit the plans that are pretty standard, whether it's the site plan, grading plan, lighting plan, landscaping, the whole 9 yards. So this is just a conception of what may be there. They would still have to obviously be required to meet all the requirements under the zoning code for that section. So staff, without any sort of measurements on here, I'm not really sure how this conceptual plan would meet the zoning code. So this is just a what could be. Don't take it as this is what you're approving. You're approving the rezoning. So with that, I don't know if the applicant wants to come up and speak to the project, but this is the nuts and bolts of the proposal.
Great. Does the applicant wish to come up and?
Matt did a pretty good job explaining it. I mean, if you get any questions on it, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. All right, continuing on with the public hearing, do we have anybody online anymore?
No, oh, shoot, it did? No, we do not.
Okay.
Time's out if nobody's on.
Anybody in the public here wish to come up and make comment? Okay, so nobody online, nobody in the room wish to make comment. I'll ask a second time. Does anybody wish to make a comment during this public hearing on this proposal? Third and final time, does anybody wish to make a public comment at the hearing on this proposal? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and move on to item 9E, which is to consider and take possible action on the request to rezone from I-1 light industrial to R4 multifamily residential. Matt, will you give the staff report?
Kind of as I said, with the future land use designation being the highway commercial district, there is the allowance for multifamily in that district. This area being that it's not on a kind of fronting one of the primary roads, kind of tucked away in the industrial park, would seem to make sense for this type of use. The other thing to note is there is sidewalk out there, so it's not like those who are out there would have no like pedestrian amenities whatsoever. Also, I think looking through the history of our building permits, we've had 44 multifamily units built since 2010. I believe there's a need for multifamily for a variety of reasons, but most notably, I think the workforce component of it, having people, more heads, more population in town helps have the local workforce. And I do think this is something that overall is something that would fit in this area.
Thanks. Any comments from commissioners? No? I get to go first again? Okay. Okay, so I don't want to throw a wrench into this, but I do want to hear your opinion on why this would not be considered spot zoning. And am I correct that that is generally a concern whenever you talk about a zoning ordinance?
Can you tell me what is spot zoning?
Spot zoning is where you've got sort of an island of a small island of a certain zoning surrounded by other, by some completely different zoning. It's a, from what I understand, it's generally viewed as a continuity problem with regard to progression of development, kind of the same thing we were talking about before. Yeah, Kyle, do you have insight
Yeah.
into this?
Yeah, so I think the observation is a good one. When you look at kind of the intensity of the development, when you get into the multifamily, it certainly is residential, but at a much higher volume and much more impact on the surrounding properties, which is why, the buffers between larger complexes and single-family homes is sometimes a consideration. So based on conversations we had with the applicant, it kind of fit a vision for that area, being a higher intensity use. Although it is worth noting that, as we talked tonight in previous items, it sounds like maybe there will be more, heavy commercial or whatever the other items that parcels might develop into. So maybe there is a consideration to be given to say, maybe residential isn't the best down there if there's a lot more incompatible commercial development that is in the works, that we're not aware of. I guess what's the neighboring zoning, and looking at it from a couple months back when we talked about it, it did seem to fit, but there might be other considerations that we didn't have the information at the time, so maybe understanding how it would fit would help more. So that's just kind of my thoughts on it. Is kind of an island of residential, but at a much higher intensity that is more compatible with commercial surroundings.
Like when you said fit, I mean, when I mentioned this to my wife when we got the packet and stuff, she said, well, that's what they did around Menards in Sun Prairie. They have large multifamily, and it does seem to fit. It doesn't seem like it's out. It seems to flow. You wouldn't think it would, but it does.
And I know that the packet, your application, the letter in there said, you cited in Beaver Dam, right? Are you talking about right there across the freeway from Mayville Engineering? Is that kind of that area you're talking about? And I know there's stuff tucked behind, just north of Coles up there, too. Same concept. I understand what you're getting at with both of those considerations, but those multifamilies are very near, like, something you would actually shop at, eat at, etc. The uses that are currently in the business park now, right? Storage, a car dealership, an implement dealership, and, hang on a sec, and then the Gates Auto Body, what's in the old?
They're an apparel manufacturer.
Okay. So it does seem to be like some commerce, but also still light industrial, which is more fitted for the zoning. Okay, sorry, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention, I mean, on the Highway 16 and 60, so that you can get to some of those other commercial retail type uses. And it's also the visibility of the site, that's a main component for a lot of these multifamily development. I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of multifamily is kind of fronting highway systems. That's an important component to it. So, I think those are the main factors in why we feel this is a really good location. As Matt indicated before, the infrastructure that was put in place was really, for, kind of high profile, highly dense type development. And I think this just fits, and a lot of people, if it were put next to single family, people would probably complain about it. So I think this is I think these are great neighbors for this type of use.
Can I ask, how many people would you anticipate living in this development?
Well, the concept plan that we have is 77 units.
Okay.
So I guess, the majority of them are two-bedroom units.
Okay,
I guess trying to do the math, I don't know, 140, 125, 140, 150 people,
Okay.
give or take.
Just got a general question about spot zoning, and I'm not aware, but for multifamily, I never, wouldn't assume you'd see a large tract of multifamily in small communities. I think you would tend to see it zoned in clusters versus, like I say, a larger parcel that was, 15, 16 buildings in a city the size of Columbus. I think of like Custer Ridge out there, I mean, that's all single-family residential, and the golf course, I'm not sure how that's zoned, but then you have a pocket of multifamily. So I think, I'm not sure, but it seems to me like that would be the case with multifamily.
Yeah, and most of the areas in town that are multifamily are contiguous to other residential, certainly lower density residential, but it's still contiguous to other residential and in closer proximity to, again, what I would call maybe consumer commercial, that kind of stuff. I'll be honest, I kind of know enough to be dangerous about the spot zoning issue. I am under the impression that at times it can be considered illegal, but is not illegal per se. And that's all like case law stuff that I was reading about. So I don't want like to oversell it as something totally anathema. But I do want to point out that if you have one location that's residential in the context of something that's like this I-1 zoning, right? In the case of a conditional use permit application from some adjoining lot, all those residents will need to be notified of a public hearing, and all those kind of things. So that's one sticking point that can come up when you end up with spot zoning. Another one is, are there buffer requirements between zoning types in our zoning ordinance? Okay, some community zoning ordinances have like additional landscaping that needs to go where there's a difference between certain types of zoning. And I wouldn't want to inadvertently get into that kind of situation where you now are putting more requirements on one lot or the other, and then you're kind of diminishing your buildable area on some of those lots, right? So these inadvertent pitfalls, I don't want to fall into. I totally agree that there's a big need in town for this kind of thing. I just want to think through the location thoroughly.
The one thing I would note. Do I have this on? Yeah, I do. The one thing I'd also note is that this is completely surrounded by the city's outlot that for stormwater purposes. So, I mean, that kind of acts as a buffer in and of itself. And that is zoned, technically it's zoned I-1 because we don't have much public or institutional zoning. At some point, when public and institutional zoning comes back, that probably would be changed to a more appropriate zoning designation because it's city-owned, and I think it's always going to be city-owned for the foreseeable future. So just take that for what it's worth.
Okay, points well made. Thanks.
I have just one more question. There are sidewalks that go all the way
Correct.
from that corner into town, right?
Yeah, actually, not with the James Street project being completed, yes.
Okay.
I think before 2017, I don't think there was
I don't think there were either.
sidewalks that got from, one side of the highway to the other.
Right, but now that's-
Now you can get all the way out to the travel center, I believe
Okay.
is where it stops.
All
But
right.
I know it's on both sides of 16.
Okay.
So-
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to either recommend to the council, or is this an action we take unilaterally? This is all recommendation to council, all right. I'll entertain a motion to either recommend to council approval or denial of zoning map amendment for parcel number as stated before.
I'd make a motion for council to approve the zoning request for parcel number 11211-1512.07.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Any second?
I'll second.
All right. I have a motion and a second to recommend approval as presented. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. All right, item number 10. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those signify favor by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.